Jake with Bond Performance here. Going to be installing a R32 big brake kit with an axle pack from Stop Tech, supplied by buybrakes.com. So I picked these rear calipers, and I actually have dust shields, but I won't be installing them, from 2008 Mk5 R32. These will be basically the same thing as a performance pack or a Golf R brake setup for the Mk7. So we're going to show the installation. These high carbon rotors will, as closely as possible, match the ST40 big brake kit I have on the front. And we're also going to be upgrading to stainless lines to match what's on the front. And just to show the size difference here, we're going from the non-performance pack rotors to the performance pack, or in this case R32 310 millimeter by 20 or 22 discs, if I remember correctly. So a big difference in thermal capacity for track use in my case, or even just aesthetics. It fills out the wheel a lot better and looks a lot better, especially with, don't mind the dirty wheels, but such a large setup up front. 355 is about a 14-inch rotor, and then the ST40 4-piston calipers up front. I did a video previously on this kit is for a A3 or a Mk6, and we showed the differences to retrofit them to the Mk7 chassis, which is actually just brake lines. So we'll get started on the install. Okay, so starting on the passenger side, we're removing these M14 triple square bolts that secure the caliper to the lower control arm / spindle here. You have to be very careful removing your ABS sensor. Push in to release the clip. Don't fight it. If you mess up the ABS sensor wiring, front or rear, you're gonna have a Christmas tree on the dash. And I haven't had the rears disconnected before, but I'd imagine it's like the fronts, where you'll have a Christmas tree no matter what. By the time you drive to the end of your driveway, it should clear itself if you haven't damaged any of the wiring. So just be very careful not to pull any pins, because I'd imagine these harnesses are not cheap to replace. Okay, so to the removal. These are torqued. I'll have a torque spec once we're going back together. I haven't looked it up yet, but they are fairly tight. So I broke those loose. Alright, so we unbolted the caliper. First thing I'm going to remove is the e-brake cable. Now you can just manually push the lever and disconnect the cable. And then with a screwdriver and a little persuasion, line one clip from the holder. Alright, now to remove the rotor, there's just one T30 Torx. It retains it in place. But keep that Torx because you'll need it again later. Rotor may need
more persuasion.
More persuasion. You can never have too much persuasion. The Volkswagen did this solid. They made the dust shield also T30 Torx. Now, because my car will be seeing some track abuse, I will not be installing the Mk5 R32 dust shields. So I'm also not running them in the front. Alright, so we just cut the dust shield off because I'm not going to be putting a new dust shield on, so I wasn't really too worried about pulling the hub off. But if you do, my triple squares only go up to an M16. This is slightly larger than that, so I'd imagine M17 or M18 triple square. And then of course that would be hidden by this dust cap. So I just figured I'd show you guys that for anyone that's interested, just to make you aware of the tools that you might need. Also, there's a specific Torx spec for installing the hub. I don't have that handy, but if you are going to go that route, just make sure that you're prepared to correctly reinstall everything when you're done. Right, with any new brake parts, they're going to have some kind of cosmoline or anti-corrosive coating on them. So you need to make sure to clean that off really well before installing your brakes, because it'll embed itself not only in the rotors but also in the pads and drastically affect braking performance. So, alright, now going back on, again you just want to align it and reinstall your T30 Torx. Don't have to get crazy with it. Remember, you're going to have to be able to get that off again someday. Alright, so we've got good clearance, nothing rubbing, we're ready for a caliper. As with anything that's got an internally contained e-brake, it'll need to twist as it's going in. You can't just use a C-clamp and manhandle it. You're going to have to engage the pins and use a 3/8 ratchet. In this case, this is like a $2 tool from the auto parts store. They make fancier ones, but it does do the job to turn the piston in clockwise. So part of the axle pack is the stainless steel brake lines. They are DOT approved, so you're not breaking the law by installing these. They're not race only parts. It is still a rubber Teflon coated line on the inside. The stainless on the outside is just to help keep it from under extreme temperature and pressure from expanding, causing a faded feel in the pedal, which you still can get from obviously over temping the brake fluid, but that's what we're avoiding here with the bigger brake kit. So we're going to go ahead and install these lines. Now, because these are Mk5 brakes, we're using Mk5 lines. The line is secured with the clip to this bracket.
Claw hammer's a necessity for this job?
Yeah, got tens of thousands of dollars in tools, and I use a claw hammer. Don't hate. Now another oddball size here, not your fabled 10mm that aliens came and took during the Area 51 invasion. This is an 11mm. Thanks for that, Volkswagen. Super common size that everybody's got laying around. But I guess if you did lose your 10, then you're in luck, because it's 11. Now don't get stupid with these. You can tell.
When they're tight, they're tight.
Yeah.
No need to over torque it.
Yeah, don't get crazy with it. Okay. So now we're ready for some brake pads. All buttoned up. Obviously I'll still need to bleed these once I get the other side done, but we torqued the carrier bolts, reinstalled the ABS line, installed the Mk5 stainless steel brake lines. Just a quick search, I don't have a good tech reference, but from what I found, the rear carrier bolt to spindle torque for the brakes is 90 Newton meters plus 90 degrees. So fact check that for yourself, because I'm not a Volkswagen tech. I don't have their shop manual handy, but that seemed to be the same torque as when I took them off. So, and I don't have the light down there to show it, but when I do a torque to yield torque like that, I put a Sharpie mark on the heads of the bolts so I can see once I've turned the 90 degrees. I don't know if I even showed it there, but that way you can just use your Sharpie mark as a reference, because unless you're using a 2-post lift, you won't have a whole lot of room. I'm on a quick jack, so really not a whole lot different than jack stands as far as height. My car's lowered, so I didn't mess around putting both lift blocks under there. So I'm only about 21 inches. That's a wrap. We're gonna knock out the other side, and I'll follow this video up with a first impression after I get these properly bedded in. Definitely need to read up on the manufacturer's specifications for that. For the fronts, it was 60 to about 10 mile per hour hard, not stops, because you don't ever want to stop fully when bedding the brakes, because you can cause a vibration by actually embedding the pad material into the rotor. So braking aggressively from 60 down to 10 miles an hour 10 times in a row with a 20-minute cooling period without stopping, so you'll need a nice long stretch of road that's safe to do this on, or a controlled environment, and then repeating that same cycle with another 20-minute cool down. So I'll have to check with Stop Tech. I've got some literature here I didn't read yet on the bed-in process, so I can update that in the follow-up video as far as what all is entailed with that. But if you got any questions, comment below. Again, I'd like to thank Stop Tech and buybrakes.com. And yeah, if you got any questions, comment below and I'll get back to you. Thanks.
Go.
Great.